And now we're going to reassemble the gearbox of the SSR9. We're going to start with the ETU. Be gentle when you put the ETU back in. Okay. Make sure that the ETU is actually really in place before you add the screw, otherwise you're going to damage the ETU, and this is something you do not want to happen. So I'm holding down the ETU, and now I'm adding the screw. There is no need to over tighten it, finger tight is absolutely enough. Now we're going to put the cables back in place. Now at this point, make sure that the black cable is under the red one. It needs to get out of here. Now you can gently push the cables in. And here's the part we talked about at the disassembly. We're talking about this little metal lip right here. Both cables need to go underneath it to secure it in place. All right, that was the ETU. Okay, now we got the ETU in. We're going to continue with the spur gear. Goes right in here. The sector gear. Now make sure that the delayer chip is pointing in a 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock position. This will help us later with the tappet plate. Like so. All right. Now, the nozzle has a ridge right here, and the tappet plate has a ridge also right in here. Make sure to put both together in a way that the tappet plate will be holding the nozzle. Put it right here on top. Okay. Now here we have this little hole, and here we have a nub. Make sure that they are aligned and actually find each other. For the piston, you have the rack down here. Make sure it's facing down. And here you have rails. They should be guiding each other. So put it in correctly, like so. Now you can attach the spring to connect the tappet plate with the gearbox shell. Next, we're gonna add the anti-reversal latch and its spring. Hold the anti-reversal latch on the long pole. Make sure the short pole is sticking out. And to add the spring, hold it like this. So the spike here is facing the front, and just put it on the latch like so. The anti-reversal latch belongs right in here. So, and you have the spring there, so make sure it is engaged. Put it right in there. Okay, I can see a shim. Now it's in place. Now, before you add the bevel gear, you need to make sure that the anti-reversal latch is actually engaged. So pull it back like so and press it down with your thumb. This should do the trick. Put the bevel gear in and give it a slight twist to the left. This will help you put it in place. The anti-reversal latch will most likely jump out every now and then. This should not stress you now. If it happens now, doesn't matter. We can, in the meantime, put the trigger back in. First, put the spring in. You have a nub here. That's where you add the spring, and there is a hole. This is how you put them together. Oops. Like so. Make sure the spring is engaged when you put the trigger in. And there we go. Now, as I said before, the anti-reversal edge jumped out. This is not too bad. Just put it back in place and that's it. If you have too much lube on your fingers or too much grease, just dry them off. This will help you assemble it and make things a lot easier. All right, here we go. Okay, great. Before we put the lid back on, make sure that the shims are in the correct place. Whoop. Right on the bearings, and make sure that all the cables are in place. We don't want to pinch them in. This will damage the ETU and the cables, and it will create a mess. What I like to do now is first align the top lid with the anti-reversal latch, because this one, as we know, is prone to jump out. Oh, already jumped. Now we need to make sure that all the gears are aligned. Next thing, also make sure that from the selector tab, this part is actually inside the gearbox. All right, the gearbox is closed. We're gonna put the screws back in. Make sure to maintain pressure once it's closed. You don't want it jumping back open. Secure a couple of them just so you don't need to apply pressure anymore. Now we can close all the other screws. As before, don't over tighten them. There is no need to do that. Just finger tight plus should be enough. Okay, then you can check that the nozzle is engaging. That means that the tappet plate and the spring are all in place. Trigger is also working. All right, and this is how you assemble the gearbox of the SSR9.